Season 9 is upon us, and this is looking to be the strongest build of the season, capable of ripping T4 bosses a new one, speed clearing tier 100s, and going all the way upwards of Pit 115. Yeah, this build is pretty disgusting. It's the Poison Thorns Spiritborn, and it's your new favorite build. But now you're probably like, hey, Mr. Big Peen Senpai, this just looks like one of those saggy old quill volley builds we've played already. Yeah, sure, but trust me, it's not. And better yet, you can play with any other skill of your choosing. Rake is great, Trash works, and Crushing Hands is looking to be even stronger than Quill Volley in some circumstances. So pull your dick out for Harambe if that's what you're looking for.
Hey, dick's out for Harambe.
The skill you choose requires one thing and one thing only, a shit ton of hits. Because in this one, we're rocking the new Balazan of whatever the fuck pantaloonies.
Bala bala bala!
Using these, all of your attacks inflicts poisoning damage. This poisoning damage in turn scales with your thorns damage rather than your weapon damage. So in short, we want a shit ton of attacks and a shit ton of thorns, and these will delete everything for us. And if that was not enough, the pantaloonies themselves also increases our poisoning damage by 300%. Yeah, that's right, simply by enemies attacking you. This poisoning in turn scales further the longer a fight continues, as we're also getting a new gem this season, Tyrant's Bane, making fast attacks even more important. But the thing is, waiting for enemies to die, that sucks balls. Is there any way to solve for this? Absolutely, introducing Noxious Resonance. This key passive got nuked this season, which was probably for the better, since we'd otherwise be farming Pit 150s. But either way, we utilize this to instantly deal the poisoning damage, and with both a hefty multiplier and additional AoE on top of that. And if that wasn't enough, we have a bunch of additional double-dipping mechanics in this build, and lots of ways to scale both our thorns and poison damage that we need to check out, making this build truly nasty. Next up, let's see how you too can create this disgusting build. And speaking about disgusting and vile, let's discuss your balls and face. Because it's time to throw out that saggy old germ-infested thing you call a razor and treat yourself to an actual trimmer. Introducing my favorite new grooming tool, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra from Manscaped. Now this is what I call versatility and control. Having two next-generation skin-safe blades, it makes sure to get the work done. Going for a thick and luscious beard? Use the trimmer blade. It can handle even the thickest of hair. Time to shave off those last 3 strands of hair of yours? Use the foil blade. It catches the finest of hairs, allowing you to get that slick and polished look. And better yet, it's packed with must-have features. With the dual-temperate LED light, there's no more missing spots or shaving your balls off by mistake. Even in low light, it's also waterproof, so you can get those balls nice and shiny in the shower. Head over to manscaped.com and grab yours. You'll get 15% off your entire order using my promo code, Perragaming. Definitely a worthwhile purchase. All right, enough talking about your disgusting balls. Let's see all the interactions making the build work. I've made a fairly detailed planner that you can check out when you're done watching my video. For the skills, we'll be using Quill Volley to trigger Balazans, but again, grab any fucking skill you want. We have Toxic Skins, which massively boosts your thorns, and we want it up permanently. The Hunter is still the strongest ultimate, although all of the other ones got a substantial buff. But we're going to need the Hunter for both the damage and ferocity stacks it provides, to hit our important attack speed breakpoints. Armored Hide grants you a substantial Thorns bonus, but it's also necessary for defense, as Spiritborn is rather squishy this season. Vortex, of course, we need to gather up enemies. And finally, an interesting skill, Ravager. This increases our number of attacks, but it also has an interesting interaction where you'll attack like a madman as long as you keep healing yourself. More on that later. The Spirit Hall, the Jaguar main hall, is where most of our damage will come from, as it has some disgusting double-dipping mechanics still after 3 seasons, and we get the Jaguar secondary hall as to utilize Loyalty's mantle. And speaking of, here it is. Yet another way that we're going to boost the double-dipping of the primary Jaguar Spirit Hall by increasing its potency. We then have Tyrael's Might. This one's disgustingly strong for this build, managing to land a gazillion extra hits on top of actually keeping us alive. Because again, we're otherwise squishy as hell this season, and for the non-Uber version, you'd go for Razor Plate for some big schlong damage. Next up, we have the gloves. The rebounding aspect basically doubles our damage as it doubles the amount of hits we deal. Other than that, we want to start stacking up our typical stats and crit chance, as we want it at 100% for our key passive. Important to note is also the Mystic Circle potency. Mystic Circles are these shiny swinger circles where you and your wife gets your assholes turned inside out every Thursday evening. And if that wasn't good enough, it also grants you multiplicative damage via the Planes Power aspect. Simply stand within the circle and your damage skyrockets. Next up are the Pantaloonies, Balazans. We've already talked about these, and you need these for the build to work. So get them fast, and get them with a GA on Bastion for additional thorns. For the sneakers, we slap on the Duelist's aspect to solve for attack speed and get any useful stats you can find. Just make sure that you have a GA armor roll here or on your gloves, or else you'll die El Mao. And for the weapon, we go for a quarterstaff for the additional defense, along with masterworking the primary Jaguar Spirit Hall as much as possible. Now here's something important though. You absolutely must get lucky hit. Chance to restore primary resource on your weapon, as this is going to be our only way of getting our resources back in this build version. I'm also mentioning that without the Starless Skies ring, you may have issues keeping up resources with this version on single target. But for this, there's an insanely simple solution. Just grab the Midnight Sun ring if you're experiencing issues keeping it up. It should solve everything. When it comes to the amulet, Vehement's Brawler brings big stonks, and you want to focus on getting an amulet with dex and potent ranks. For the rings, the Starless Skies is fantastic, and so is the Conceited aspect, as we should keep up a permanent barrier in this build. And with that, let's see how we keep barrier up. Easy, it's done via this rune combination Pock and Quay. This is not only a damage increase for us, but it's also going to solve a lot of our survivability issues. For the other rune combination, we use AHU and Cax for a substantial damage increase. This is going to go off like crazy, as the enemies are below 80% life, nearly doubling your damage. For your seasonal powers, we're rocking Disintegrate, as this will be up permanently. We obviously want poisoning damage, and the most important power of them all, Fractured Core. This is a must-have for pushing, as it instantly removes those shitty resistance auras that breaks every pushing run. We combine that with Sapping Crux to keep up Vulnerable and Invigorating Helix for additional healing. And remember, healing will boost our Ravager, and the amount of attacks we dish out, you'll see how soon. And speaking of seasonal powers, we want Idol from Below for some additional damage. But most importantly, Seal of Denial is going to grant us a humongous thorns and defensive bonus, and Tyrant's Bane will stack that damage over time bonus up into infinity as well. Pretty nice. Great job, friends. Guide almost complete. Next up is the skill tree. Let's check it out, shall we? Starting us off, we're heading over to grab Quill Volley along with additional hits. Because again, that's what this build is all about. We then grab Vortex and make it spammable with Replenishing Vortex, necessary to gather up enemies. We have a bunch of passives, Snooze, but more interesting, Ravager. This increases the amount of hits we dish out, and with Replenishing Ravager, We grants us a huge number of additional attacks as long as we heal ourselves over and over again, which we do via our seasonal powers, remember? We also find toxic skin here, which grants us a disgusting amount of thorns. In our defensive tree, we find armored hide for added thorns and defense, along with a bunch of passives for poison damage via nourishment, thorns via bastion, some barrier, and perhaps most importantly, fueled, which will grant disgusting amounts of healing as we kill enemies for our Ravager. Next up, we grab resilient as to not fucking die il Mao, and potent, which you should aim for on your amulet. In the ultimate tree, we find a bunch of damage multipliers along with unstoppable, and yes, you guessed it, a shit ton of healing. Here we also have the hunter, which executes enemies, boosts our damage, ferocity stacks, and is easy to keep up. And finally, the key, passive, noxious resonance. Gutted into oblivion, yes, but still the absolute goat for this build in particular, turning our dots into direct damage with added damage and an AoE. Nice, huh? Damn right. Hey, will you look at that? We're late. It's already Paragon fucking clock and you know it, baby. As per usual, I may make some slight adjustments during the season here, and I'm down for feedback as to how to make it even better. Either way, we're starting with Headhunter for additional dexterity. And dexterity is insanely important because in the next board, we find Hubris, greatly enhancing your thorns the more dodge you have. And Dex grants dodge. We obviously want spiny skin, can't pass up on 35% thorns, and then it's all about just grabbing as much max life and defense as possible. While you're low on Paragon points, you basically skip every magic and rare node until you've unlocked 5 boards, your glyphs, and legendary nodes, as those are far more valuable early on. In the next board, we find Convergence, which is easily capped via the seasonal powers, and Revenge for additional damage. We then head to Sapping, which grants damage, vigor, and is a lovely board, as we'll find some additional dodge and attack speed here. Here we socket in Ritual, which you want to maximize as Mystic Circle potency equals Big Damn equals Big Dick, a mathematical formula you should be familiar with. Next we get Viscous Shield, another great board. And due to this, you want to make sure to get Barrier Generation wherever you can, both for defense and getting this one capped. We finalize the board with Wildfire, which is how we reset all of our cooldowns, by our incarnate skills dealing damage, that is. Well damn, Paragon's complete. Let's check out the Mercenary, and then there's but one thing left. Here you have 2 options. You either go with Raher, as I've done here, as a defensive option, or you go for Subo, because Subo is the fucking man when it comes to damage and granting wall hack. In that case, you'd go for the Molotovs for additional damage over time. It's all up to you, my friend. Alright, finally it's time to get good and learn how to play the actual build. Fortunately for you, it's incredibly easy. Firstly, you have a few cooldowns. You're going to press these whenever they're up, namely Armored Hide, Toxic Skin, and Ravager. You should quickly reset these as we have the Wildfire glyph, and you can just keep spamming these bad boys. For the other skills, things are a bit more interesting. You have the Hunter, which you can use on low-life enemies to execute them. You can use it for mobility, but mainly you want to use it as frequently as possible for its damage bonus and ferocity stacks. It will be easier to keep up than in this clip, as the PTR changes were reverted just now. Either way, just keep it up as much as possible. We then have a skill that requires some actual skill, Vortex. Using this, you can gather up enemies with ease. If you've gathered up many of them, then the Vortex cooldown will instantly reset after you've used it, and it can then be used to gather up a bunch of enemies. This is mainly something you do while pushing though, as you'd otherwise just one-shot enemies with your quill volleys. And finally, a note on the most important part here, your Mystic Circles. Stand within it, always. That's how you deal damage. Very important. All right, and with that, I'm done. Make sure to get the lawnmower to get the shiniest balls imaginable. Drop a sub to your man Perragaming, and I'll see you in the next one.